Okay, so so it's going back. So thank you for introducing PeeringDB. I guess everyone who has an AS knows what PeeringDB is, and we already did a couple of presentations at several conferences, and therefore we did also a rehaul of our presentations. The slide overview is now that we developed a new slide deck with a short, medium, and long format, and we are also doing a tutorial presentation. You might find it afterwards. I do not do the tutorial presentation today. And what we want to do is to highlight the integration with PeeringDB. We want to promote the latest tool and integration developments. And if you have anything which would like us to announce on, have to integrate it, please let us know and get in touch with the product committee, which will I talk about later in more detail. And we also want to have your feedback on PeeringDB at the conferences. The goal really is to educate and evangelize on PeeringDB to facilitate interconnections. So this is the agenda for today. I will first talk a little bit about the organization and election updates, then about the strategic goals and the organizational objectives, and what I already told about, the feature planning process, roadmap update, and third-party integration. So why do we have PeeringDB? So for everyone who is in peering, basically what you have to know about is, of course, the information about your peers. That is the information about the ASN, about the networks, but that's not all. So you are not peering in a free room, but where do you meet? These are either at facilities or at interconnection points, at IXPs. So this is the three components that PeeringDB consists of. This is about ASN, facilities, and IXPs. And the genius thing really PeeringDB does is to combine everything, to link everything together. So in a single sentence, so PeeringDB, we are a non-profit member-based organization that facilitates the exchange of user-maintained interconnection-related information. And it's for peering coordinators, internet exchanges, and network operators. But secondly, also, we have a lot of requests from researchers who are interested in how the peering connection industry evolves. And PeeringDB really makes it easy for you to find all the information, either via the graphical user interface, and which is even more important nowadays is via the API. The API really gives you a nice way to integrate PeeringDB into your tools. So what do we need for PeeringDB? If you want to register your account, we take the information to authenticate you from whois. So what we really need is that your whois information or the information you provide when registering with PeeringDB matches in some way the information you can find at whois. And PeeringDB itself, while it was for years just a voluntary sort of working group establishment, so in late 2015, we finally set up a voluntary organization under 501(c)(6) in the US. That means we are incorporated in some way. We are fully funded by sponsorships. That means the use of PeeringDB is totally for free. You may use it as much as you want. So what we did in between is to build a healthy organization, try to build financial reserves, and execute the long-term strategic plan. Everyone who has a PeeringDB account and is subscribed to the Gov mailing list is automatically a member and may vote on our yearly elections. So this is the board of directors. What we do is we shuffle out half of the board every year to maintain stability. The day-to-day work is split in two parts. We first have the admin committee. The admin committee manages the administration of user accounts and approves new accounts and take care of the PeeringDB records. We answer support tickets, and what we also still need is that we have more admin peoples which not only are fluent in English, but what we basically see that we also would need support from Portuguese, Spanish, and more also from languages from the Asian world. The other committee is the product committee. The product committee you can see is the committee which drives PeeringDB forward. While the admin committee is doing the day-to-day work, the product committee is looking ahead. So this is the product committee asks for input from the community, manages the roadmap and development priorities, and also then asks for money if we have to do greater work. So this is the admin committee. To see how well PeeringDB 2.0 was received, you see the number of support tickets. You see in blue the number of tickets with PeeringDB 1.0. So we did switch over to 2.0 March last year, mid-March of last year, and you see a steep increase in support tickets. This was not because 2.0 was buggy, but people simply liked the new version. And you also can see that the demand for PeeringDB lasts for this year. We almost did this is the end of August, as many tickets until end of August as we did totally in 2016. So currently the amount of tickets is roughly 30 tickets per day. And to help the admin committee, we have also done an automated request validation. Most of the support tickets is that new networks register. And this is a really simple task. So the request comes in, there is an ASN number, you have to put in a record with the information, and you have to check that the request is legit. So you have to match simply the email address from the sender to the email addresses which you find in the US records. And this is done automatically, taking the other information from the RIRs. And this is also the first set of new budgeted features. So we have a support contract with the developers of PeeringDB, but this is just for support and maintaining. And this was a new feature which was added to PeeringDB and went through the product committee workflow. So as said, PeeringDB 100% relies on sponsorship. We have several sponsorship categories. The diamond sponsorship, which is exclusively, which comes to a price tag of 25,000 bucks per year. No, this limits to 2 sponsors. Then we have the platinum sponsors, 10,000, the gold sponsors, 5,000, and the silver sponsors with 2,500 per year. So if you're interested in to donate money to PeeringDB, just contact sponsorship PeeringDB.com for more sponsorship infos. So this is our current sponsors list, and as you can see, PeeringDB is well funded and gets a lot of sponsors, especially from the silver sponsorship, from the silver sponsors. So that's about the organization and election updates. And now I talk about more on the strategic goals and organizational objectives. So what the board did in beginning of this year to sit down and to think about the strategic direction for this year and the next year. And first of all is that we want to ensure reliability, security and support of PeeringDB services. As some of you may have noticed that a couple of days ago, PeeringDB was down for a couple of hours. This should not have happened, but this has happened, and the reason for this is that we are not yet optimally running PeeringDB services. Next thing is to maintain and develop enhanced functionality of PeeringDB services, and therefore we really need your input, because the product committee can only manage what it gets from you, from the users. And really, if you have something which you would like to see in PeeringDB, just file an issue and we will take care of that. Next thing is that we want to educate the community on effective and efficient use of PeeringDB services, and not only of PeeringDB, but in general to educate the community on interconnection and evangelize the use of PeeringDB. To guarantee that PeeringDB also is around not only this year and next year, we have to encourage support for PeeringDB via sponsorship. So the sponsorship is the only way that PeeringDB gets money from. And to guarantee this, our goal is also to build a reserve of 2 years of operational funds for the long-term stability of the organization. PeeringDB is not standing alone. As I already said, what we do is we take information from the RIRs, and we also want to build or strengthen relationship with operators and peering for them and other related databases. PeeringDB is not the only database which is around in these sectors. There are more, and we try to work cooperative with each other on interconnection topics. From the strategic objectives, we have derived a set of organizational objectives. I don't want to go through each of this. This is more or less just to write down in more detail from the strategic goals what the organizational objectives are. So as talked about the product community, this deals with new features, and this is in detail how the feature workflow looks like. All features are tracked via GitHub, and you see the URL where you can also file new issues, and then the product committee goes through these features through several steps, and finally arrives at the point where we have the sprint and incorporates new features and bug fixes and the new releases. So the task of the product committees is to evaluate and prioritize the requests, and if it's a major work, request a quote for development cost, and in turn also request budget from the board and manage implementation and scheduling. What we do is we try to release one version roughly per month, and we will announce a new version, a new release at least 1 week in advance, giving all the changes to the community. What we also do is we run a beta site which already contains all the new developments, versioning for testing. This is especially if you have an API, you want to know that the new release is not breaking your existing tools. We announce the new release on the social media, as well as there is a special PeeringDB announce list. If you want to subscribe to, we only announce their new releases. Releases are done Wednesday at 4 o'clock Zulu, and this avoids Monday and Friday. And what we also try to avoid is international holidays and large conferences and events, because at these conferences perhaps engineers are not available that best. As said, in parallel to the production server, we also have a beta server which is available at beta.peeringdb.com. It always runs the latest beta software version and has the same functionality as the production server. It has an API as well as the graphical user interface, but of course the database is local to the beta server only. That means if there are changes in the production server, these are not reflected in the beta server and vice versa. So what is planned for 2017, just today at 6 o'clock in the morning, we released a major release. This is 2.3.0, and what we did in this major release is we upgraded the underlying Django framework and touched also many parts of the code. So the actual release version is 2.5.3. And the roadmap area is divided in 4 so-called domains. First domain is the data quality, privacy, and confidentiality. Second one is usability and API. The next one is the platform stability and reliability. And the last one is the product evolution itself. Besides that, we have a communication-focused area which deals with the partner management. We are also looking, as said, to having our tool integrated in other products and enhanced by other products, the communication outreach, and the membership engagement. Coming now to my last agenda point, this is the third-party integration. So what PeeringDB does is it maintains interconnection data, basically in the form of the IXP data and, more important, to the facility data. What we have on all of the data is permission and privacy and user information is set by the user. The accuracy is essential, and exchange of sources are vetted. The data conflicts, if there are any, they are resolved by the admin committee. And the third-party integration has started in 2 ways. This is data exchanges with other organizations like IXF, which is the Federation of Internet Exchange Point, and to use by free and commercial software. So the PeeringsDB goal is to maintain data integrity. This is especially we need this integrity, because if you are building your tools on PeeringDB, you rely that the information which is coming from PeeringDB is correct. Especially if, for example, if you configure your BGP server from data from PeeringDB, you rely on that the EIS numbers and the IP addresses which are shown on PeeringDB are correct and belong to the organization which you assume it belongs to. And the other one is, if you need information about facilities, you rely on that the address given in PeeringDB is correct. This is especially needed if you want to have an interconnect. You have a data center or data center operator with different buildings. You have to rely on that the network which is listed in a data center is really in the data center you expect it to be. So we are exchanging IXP data information also with, as I said, IXF, or more specifically URAX, which is part of IXF, and for example, PCH as well. For network data, we are completely relying on the RIRs. It is not useful to have the users input the AS information by themselves. And for facility data, we just announced an LOE with a commercial partner which Inflect deals with facility data validation. So the facility data may be inconsistent and incomplete. So when we built PeeringDB, it was, as far as I remember, in 2004 or so, anyone was able to suggest a facility, and we just took over the information. What might have happened that the information about the facility was not complete, in that sense that the street address is missing, or if there was a street address, then the house number was missing, the zip code might be missing. In between, the data center facility operators might also have changed, and this is not reflected well in PeeringDB. And Inflect is an open, neutral search and procurement tool for internet infrastructure. And they try to provide accurate, validated information. So what they do, they concentrate on facilities and try to get information from different sources, put it in their tool, and the outcome then is validated information. They contact the data centers operators, take more information from the web, and so on and so on. And we made Inflect by a preferred partner to provide free validation of facility data. The idea how it will look like is, so currently we say everything for our facility data is unvalidated. We will pipe it through Inflect and we'll get back validated facility data. This is still work in progress. As you can see, the letter of intent was only signed 1 month ago, and we need to iron out this in more detail. Another tool which incorporates PeeringDB is Tracemon. Tracemon is a tool for visualizing a network topology generated by trace routes. And what you can do is just by one click, you can get IXP and network information, and also are able to log in to PeeringDB. That means where you can see on the right bottom side is update or update PeeringDB. Clicking on that automatically logs you in to PeeringDB, and then you are able to update the information. And that was it from my side for PeeringDB. So, thank you.
I need to find a microphone somewhere. But yeah, so Arnold, thanks very much. Are there any questions for Arnold on PeeringDB?
Yeah, more. So meanwhile, more people also showed up. Good morning to everyone else as well.
I actually have a question for you. Obviously, you've shown that it's really important to keep your peering information up to date in PeeringDB. And I know when setting up peers with the larger providers that they use PeeringDB, the likes of Google and Microsoft. Can you give us some other examples of other content providers that use PeeringDB as a information set so that they can automate their BGP sessions?
Yeah, you also named the important ones, the bigger ones. They definitely do. Microsoft, for example, if you go on I guess it's peering.microsoft.com or something like that, you can request peering with them automatically, and then the first step what they do is to see if you have a PeeringDB record, and this is not sufficient. You also have to provide role accounts. So it's not sufficient to simply type in your ASN, but you also have to provide role accounts where the potential peer is able to reach you. So we don't have a list, but I guess it might be a good idea to also have a list on PeeringDB to say, okay, these ASNs or these providers request that you have a well-maintained PeeringDB record. Thank you.
Other questions? I think everyone's still sleeping.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Arnold.